It's been a pretty good year for movies. I'm kind of unsure about how 2020 is going to look, but here's hoping to another good year for movies.
Many months later.
Oh, hey there. Hope you're doing well and staying safe in this crazy year that has been 2020. It's been a year of change for sure, and we've lost a lot of things that were a part of our normal everyday lives and things that we honestly took for granted. But I think it's safe to say that the film and theater experience has been the most affected by this year's pandemic. People like myself who go to the movies on a weekly basis, we lost our favorite pastime. I have found a way to cope with this void in my life, however. Some people would like to argue that streaming gets the same type of quality content, and I can understand that mindset, but in the same sense, I kind of have to disagree on a lot of its standard content. As an annual tradition, I wanted to find the 10 best movies to come out in the year 2020, and it would be kind of a challenge to myself considering all the movies that were delayed or completely moved from the 2020 slate. Typically, movies on my top 10 lists, only about 2 or 3 of the movies on the list will be streaming exclusives, but this year 7 of the 10 movies on my list are going to be on streaming services, so they should be available for you to watch if you have the basic streaming services that most people have, such as Netflix and Hulu. Before I get started, I wanted to mention 2 specific movies that I'm hearing a lot of top 10 buzz about, and that is Minari and One Night in Miami, both of which have had very limited releases, mainly playing at some film festivals. Not been able to see this. They're going to have their theater releases here in a couple weeks into 2021, so I can't unfortunately include them on this list, even though I'm hearing some really great things about them. The same situation happened last year with 1917, which most people had to see in theaters at the beginning of this year. Alright, let's cut the chit chat and talk some movies. At number 10, we have The Gentleman. Guy Ritchie's latest crime movie takes our first spot of the day. The Gentleman is a simple story of a marijuana empire in London, with rival gangs wanting to take control of the market when word gets out that Matthew McConaughey's character wants to get out of the industry. On paper, The Gentleman is doing nothing new here film-wise, but I think the film was able to come and be very stylistic with its visual choices. Looking visually like a more grounded Kingsman movie with some Tarantino-style dialogue in there is what really elevated this movie for me. Also, while the movie takes on an interesting way of storytelling solely just because it's told through sequences of one character telling a story to another that's explaining what has happened and what is going to happen. Overall, The Gentleman is one of the more fun movies of the year. It's a movie you can put on and just have a good time. At number 9, we have Mank.
Mank? It's Orson Welles.
Of course it is.
I think it's time we talked.
What is it the writer says? Tell the story you know.
I'm going to go right off the bat and say Mank is not for everyone. This is an extremely niche film, and you have to be either very old in age or know a lot about Citizen Kane to really understand this film. Mank tells the story of screenwriter Herman Mankiewicz, the writer of the alleged best movie ever, Citizen Kane. A claim I don't necessarily agree with.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't.
We follow Mank through his current life problems and struggles with alcoholism as he attempts to write Citizen Kane for the director and star of Citizen Kane, Orson Welles. The real origin story of Citizen Kane really unravels in this as we begin to see Mank meet people who would go on to be characterized in characters in Citizen Kane. While we're going through the flashbacks of people that Mank has met, we also get to explore old movie sets such as MGM Studios. And honestly, I would want to spend the whole movie just at these studios. I love how they're able to magically recreate all of these old movie sets and give it that old-timey feel. The movie also tries its hardest to be stylized similar to Citizen Kane, specifically in its black and white tone, and they even added film grain just to be a bit extra there. But this is all really brought to life by Gary Oldman's performance in this movie, and when we see the battle with his current struggles pay off for the obvious success that Citizen Kane becomes, it honestly brought a tear to my eye to see a talented filmmaker in this industry who had everything but still struggled mentally, but to see him finally get that Covenant Award was just so gratifying in this movie. At number 8, we have Borat's subsequent movie film, or just Borat 2.
With real sexy peels.
This is a bag that just goes over the dress.
They're nice.
I really like this.
If 2020 needed anything, it's definitely a Borat movie. Somehow Sacha Baron Cohen was able to secretly make a movie earlier this year. The only thing more amazing that he wasn't killed while making it.
Let's go. Go, go, go.
Are we locked?
The doors are locked?
Yes, sit down.
Hold it.
How many sequels are rarely good, and then typically they're awful in comparison to the first. While Borat 2 will never come close to the impact the first movie made, it does enough to stand by the first film. Putting more effort into the skits than the actual pranks, Borat 2 kind of flips the first movie's formula, and it was a fresh breath of air for the Borat character. Specifically, the actress playing Borat's daughter in this movie is hilarious, and she's really able to get some of the best reactions out of this movie. Specifically, Rudy Giuliani in an extremely uncomfortable scene who should really learn how to tuck his shirt in. But yeah, Borat 2 doesn't have the insane shock value the first one does, mainly because we have a constant flow of shock value in our lives these days. But the skits and pranks they keep in the movie are a good time and well worth the watch. At number 7, we have The Invisible Man.
He said that wherever I went, he would find me, walk right up to me, and I wouldn't be able to see him.
Adrian is dead.
He's not dead.
2 of the past 3 years, Blumhouse was able to make my top movie of the year choice. But unfortunately, this is as far as they're going to get this year. But hey, Invisible Man is still a terrific movie. The Invisible Man is a modern take on the classic Invisible Man story, except this time we're not following the actual Invisible Man, we're following a person the Invisible Man is terrorizing. Taking a more realistic approach versus the more science fiction version of the Invisible Man, we're able to really have an innovative horror movie here. We follow our main character as they are haunted by the Invisible Man and how they will begin to lose their sanity as no one else around them will believe them that this is happening. The movie is able to use tense scenes in this innovative ways, since at most times you're guessing where the Invisible Man could be. I really enjoyed the use of horror in this movie, as well as its incorporation with the main character's struggles with her past abusive boyfriend. Everything is explained very well, and it just ties together perfectly at the end. At number 6, we have Run, aka Eminem's Mom, the movie.
I'm your mom. It's my job to take care of you when you need me. And you need me.
I initially saw the poster for Run and brushed it off as another bad horror movie cashing in on a holiday, but this movie was really one of the biggest surprises for me this year. Run follows a wheelchair-bound girl who has been sheltered her entire life. Everything she is allowed to do has been controlled by her mother, and things begin to unravel as our main character becomes suspicious of her mother being untruthful to her. I was initially mad after seeing this trailer to this movie because I thought it was giving away too much, but in reality, this movie has so much deeper within it. I went into it thinking I would know all the twists to it, but I can't exaggerate how crazy and unexpected the twists in this movie will hit you. Sarah Paulson gives another super intimidating performance as another obsessive control freak, and we get to see a legitimate paraplegic actress in lead in this movie, so that's really cool to see. This movie would have been a bit higher on my list normally just because of what it had done throughout most of it, but it chokes a bit in its final act. But again, the terrifying motives in this movie alone are worth the watch. At number 5, we have Soul.
I was born to play. It's my reason for living.
I almost feel like I don't need to explain why a Pixar movie is great by this point. I actually really enjoy both Pixar's entries this year, with the other being Onward, but I just feel like Soul is the definition of a Pixar movie. Coming from the same director and having similarities to Pixar's Inside Out, Soul shows a journey of a nearly defeated man who learns what it really means to have a soul and be alive. I usually have to remind myself that I'm not the target audience for Pixar movies anymore, but somehow I feel like kids won't enjoy this movie. It feels like a movie meant for adults. Soul goes into some deep territory and really provides an illustration of how we are and how we form our passions and become who we are. Lastly, this movie is just absolutely breathtaking. This is the best animation Pixar has ever done. The outdoor New York shots look like paintings. The painting style animation mixes and contrasts really well with the more cartoony style of there's Blue Soul versions, and overall just this beautiful art style really complements the deep storytelling that Soul has to offer here, and is going to be remembered as one of Pixar's best. At number 4, we have Promising Young Woman.
Well, the doctor's here.
It's every guy's worst nightmare getting accused like that.
Really? Can you guess what every woman's worst nightmare is?
Promising Young Woman is the newest movie on my list. I just saw this last week. Promising Young Woman is a thriller commentary movie about current male cultures, to say the least. Without saying too much, we follow a main character named Cassie, who has some dirt on her shoulder from a past traumatic experience. She lives a double life at night to take her frustrations, and a point comes where she can finally get the revenge that she wants. This movie really tackles the darker sides of dating, specifically in college cultures, but this is really able to illustrate the story well because it's always keeping the main character likable and even funny at times. Every line she says is clever and witty. The movie is so smart in its execution and even highlights the problem with not only the demographic of men, but people like bystanders who do nothing or counselors who want to believe both sides of a story. Carey Mulligan is fierce in this movie, and she gave my favorite performance from an actress this year. At number 3, we have Palm Springs.
The second you fall asleep, it all just goes back to the start.
I drove all the way back home to Austin, and I still woke up here.
One time I smoked a bunch of crystal and made it all the way to Equatorial Guinea. It was a huge waste of time.
Groundhog's Day is such a classic comedy that I always thought every movie that used the repeating day premise would just pale in comparison. But Happy Death Day really changed my perspective on that, and Palm Springs is able to elevate beyond that and be hand in hand with Groundhog Day. Palm Springs is the perfect mix of the day on repeat formula because not only is the main character okay with being in loop, the movie starts out with him already repeating his days. The idea of seeing what someone has learned from repeating the same day over and over and seeing what they can achieve each time is really neat. It's kind of like playing a video game. And in this, Andy Samberg is hilarious as usual, and he makes you actually believe this guy is cool with living the same day over and over, something that would cause most people to go insane. Samberg and Kristen Miltati work really well together in this movie, and they have just so much chemistry, and plus this movie has some other great side characters such as J.K. Simmons' role. In my opinion, this is the best comedy this year, and I highly recommend it for some good laughs. At number 2, we have The Trial of the Chicago 7.
I'm concerned you have to think about it.
Give me a moment, would you, friend? I've never been on trial for my thoughts before.
The Trial of Chicago 7 is based on real-life events of the protests at the 1968 Democratic National Convention. During the protest, riots began to break out, and the 7 leaders from different protest groups were all arrested and put on trial. For obvious reasons, this movie could have not came out at a more perfect time. This movie really reflects issues that we saw 50 years ago and how we are still seeing those same issues regarding today's protesting. This movie is more of a courtroom drama, but it's able to really illustrate the story through flashbacks throughout the court sessions in the movie. The cast of the 7 on trial are just so top-notch in this, and this is probably my favorite movie cast this year. Specifically, Sacha Baron Cohen here, who's criminally underrated in his serious performances here. It's so crazy to me that only Cohen could give a performance where he's playing a hippie, but at the same time, he's also the smartest person in the room. Everything in this movie comes together perfectly, and it really educated me on an event that I didn't even know happened. Alright, before we reach number 1, let's get into some honorable mentions. First honorable mention goes to Birds of Prey. Being the best superhero movie this year, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought this was a super fun, Deadpool kind of sort of movie here. And plus, it made the list because I was heavily disappointed by Wonder Woman 1984. Our second honorable mention goes to The Devil All the Time. This movie being a Pulp Fiction style story that takes place in West Virginia. We get some cool performances in this movie, and it makes you actually think Tom Holland is a good actor for once.
Well, why you booing me? I'm right.
Last honorable mention goes to The Five Bloods, Spike Lee's latest joint. This film is such a mixed bag of terrific acting, but just has some really bad film editing in it and action sequences. I hate it because Spike Lee always has good intentions, but he really just needs allowed to let some people come in and revise some of his work sometimes. At number 1, we have Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
What is you? I don't see your name in lights.
Oh, I just play the piece, whatever they want. I don't criticize other people's music.
I ain't like you, Color. I got talent.
Oh,
me and this horn, we's tight. If my daddy had a known I was gonna turn out like this, he would have named me Gabriel. Oh. I'm gonna get me a band and make me some records. I done give Mr. Stutterman some of my songs I wrote, and he said he gonna let me record them when I get my band together. I just got to finish the last part of this song. I got style.
Oh, everybody got style. Style ain't nothing but keeping the same idea from beginning to end. Everybody got it.
Everybody can't play like I do.
You're probably saying to yourself, what the hell is Ma Rainey's Black Bottom? Well, I said the exact same thing to myself when this movie came out. I was primarily interested in this movie just because it had Chadwick Boseman's final performance, who may rest in peace, and I heard it was very good in the movie. I wanted to go into this movie with an open mind and be the judge for myself. And well, I take comfort knowing that Boseman's best performance ever will be his final note here, at least. Boseman is phenomenal in this movie and easily provides the best performance this year. The movie follows blues singer Ma Rainey and her band as they spend the day in a recording studio trying to record her music for the first time ever, since we're in the 1920s. When the band isn't in the studio, we spend time with them just sitting in a room bickering with each other. This sounds like such a simple premise, and it honestly is. The movie only has 3 sets, but the dialogue and the character troubles are delivered so masterfully here that I was mesmerized the entire time while I was watching this movie. Every single person in the band is really interesting, and I loved hearing them reflect on blues music and how they felt about recording music during the 1920s when there's so many civil rights issues going on. Similar to the trial of Chicago 7, I had no idea who Ma Rainey was before this movie, so it was really great to be able to learn about the leading pioneer in blues music. And Ma Rainey's Black Bottom is my movie of the year. Alright, and that is my top 10 movies of 2020. I hope it's been a good list. The big thing I wonder from this list is, how would these movies compare if they released in a normal year? I honestly feel like only 2 or 3 of the movies on my list this year would have made something like a list last year, but it's kind of unfair to compare that. Oh, as a little bonus, a quick worst of award. Worst movie of 2020 easily goes to 365 Days. I mean this, if you like, I'm not going to tell someone how to like their movies, and if you like this movie, that's fine. But if you think this is a good movie, I cannot thoroughly explain how much I mean this. You need mental help if you think this is a good movie. Your opinion is horrible. Let's hope 2021 delivers us a more normal movie experience filled with some great movies, and hope everything eventually returns to normal this year. As usual, I am Dr. Rorschach. Thank you for watching. Have a great new year.